On one hand, you hear all of this buzz from politicians and tech leaders about an AI revolution. But then on the other hand, there's this growing skepticism from, well, a lot of us. That's what we're diving into today. This huge gap between the official hype and how people actually feel about AI.
So this is the big question, right? Governments are going all in, betting that AI is going to supercharge everything. But is the public on board? As it turns out, the data shows it's complicated.
And a huge report from the Tony Blair Institute and Ipsos just puts it out there, plain and simple. The single biggest thing holding back generative AI, it's not the tech, it's trust. This trust deficit is the real roadblock, and it's what we need to get our heads around.
Okay, so to really understand this trust problem, you've got to first look at this massive split in the population. The report calls it the experience divide. And it turns out that whether or not you've actually used AI totally flips the script on how you see it. And just look at these numbers. More than half of us have actually given generative AI a try. I mean, that's pretty wild for a technology that most people hadn't even heard of a couple of years ago. But then you've got nearly half the population who's never touched it, where a country literally split right down the middle on this.
And this is where it gets really interesting. This divide leads to a super clear pattern. The data doesn't lie. Getting hands-on with AI is basically the antidote to being afraid of it. The more familiar you are with these tools, the more you seem to trust them.
Let's put a hard number on that fear. For people who've never used AI, a solid majority, 56%, view it as a risk to society. That is a massive wall of skepticism to overcome.
But now, watch this. For the folks who are using AI every single week, that number completely craters. It drops from 56% all the way down to 26%. It's literally cut by more than half. That's just a gigantic shift in perspective. And this really sums it all up, doesn't it? When AI is just some scary, abstract thing you read about in the headlines, of course it's easy to fear the worst. But once you actually use it yourself, you start to see what it can do, what it can't do, and a lot of that mystery and the fear just starts to melt away.
All right, but it's not just about if you use AI. It's also about how it's being used. See, public opinion isn't really about the technology itself. It's all about the specific job the AI is being asked to do.
So if we know that hands-on experience helps build trust, what are the specific uses of AI that are making people feel more comfortable, and which ones are just setting off all the alarm bells? This table just lays it out perfectly. We're totally on board with using AI for things that have a clear benefit for everyone. Sorting out traffic jams, helping doctors spot cancer faster. Yes, please. But the second you start talking about AI monitoring us at work, or using our data to sling political ads at us, oof, the mood changes instantly. Support just falls off a cliff.
And this is so crucial. It shows we're not necessarily anti-AI. We're against certain applications of AI. What we really want to know is that it's being used for good and that there are some actual rules in place. We want to be sure it's not just the big tech companies or governments calling all the shots.
Okay, so we've got the problem down. A big trust gap driven by a lack of experience and some pretty valid concerns about how AI is being used. But the TBI report doesn't just leave us there. It actually gives us a clear 3-part playbook for building what it calls justified trust. So the whole plan rests on these 3 pillars. First, you've got to change the way we talk about AI. Second, you have to actually prove it's making our lives better. And finally, you need to create the rules and the training to make everyone feel safe and in control. Let's break each one down. So, step 1 is all about how we communicate. Leaders need to stop talking about abstract stuff like boosting GDP. Nobody connects with that. Instead, talk about our actual lives. Is this going to get me a doctor's appointment faster? Is it going to make dealing with the government less of a nightmare? Will it actually shorten my commute? That's the stuff that matters. That's the language that builds trust. Next up, you gotta walk the walk. It's not enough to just say AI is working wonders. We need to actually see it. And the way you measure success can't be some technical jargon on a spreadsheet. It has to be our real lived experience. Is this service better now? Is my life genuinely easier? You have to show us, not just tell us. And finally, none of this works without some real guardrails. Regulators need to have actual teeth to keep AI in check. And at the same time, all of us need access to training so we can feel confident using these new tools safely. The whole point is to change the dynamic, right? So AI feels like a tool we work with, not some force that's just being done to us. And when you boil it all down, this is the big takeaway. The report basically says trusting artificial intelligence isn't really about the technology. It's about trusting the human intelligence behind it, the people and the institutions who are actually in charge.
So, it all comes back to control, to purpose, to governance. Trusting the code is one thing, but trusting the people writing the rules, that's the whole ballgame. Which really just leaves us with one final question to think about. When it comes to the future of AI, who do you trust to be in the driver's seat?